This is Alan Baker and Bob Berge. We are the Association Director and the Technical Director of Erik Paulson's Combat Submission Wrestling Association. Welcome to the CSW Podcast.
Hey everybody, another CSW podcast. It's December 9th, 2016, the day we're recording this. I don't know what day it's going to be coming out, hopefully very soon. But we're lucky enough to have Coach Erik Paulson on again with us. What's happening, Alan? What are we going to talk about?
Well, actually, all kinds of stuff. Coach actually is just now getting back off of a tour through the UK. He's going to talk to us a little bit about that. Some of the training he did with the guys over there. We're going to talk about the third coach development program that he has added to his instructor training program. Up until this point, we've done two. So this year was the first time he's added on this third one. He's doing it on the East Coast, actually in Atlanta. So we're going to talk about some of the training. I think he primarily focused on the STX program at this camp. And then we have, while he was here, he did the Ground and Pound DVD. I was there for that on the receiving end. So we're going to hear.
I saw you giving a little bit too.
I think I made a few noises during the recording of that thing. So it's going to be fun to watch. Anyway, Coach is going to tell us a little bit about that. And I'm dragging a big surprise out of him during this podcast toward the end. It's going to be something that I'll say a lot of the current affiliates of the association does not want to miss. I'm pretty excited about it. Actually, behind the scenes, been chatting with Coach about it for the last 6 months to a year. So it's really cool. So we're going to kind of semi-announce that. And then let Coach do what he does best. We'll just give him the mic and let him go.
Well, as Bill Wallace always said, that they said, "Hey, Bill, how are you training for your fight?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going to McDonald's. I'm eating tons of burgers and French fries. I'm really greasing up for this one." And the funny thing is he went to Burger King and McDonald's all the time. It didn't matter because he had that body style that he could eat a pound of donuts and still look great.
Yeah. He was pretty ripped back in the day. He still is. Is pretty good.
He's a super athlete. Just even his body today, you look at him, he's still in great shape, and he could still kick too.
Yeah, he's on social a lot. He posts a lot of stuff. He seems like a cool dude. He seems funny. He seems like a real funny dude.
He is a super funny guy, and he was a top wrestler too.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a really good wrestler. He came to my bar one time with Kathy Long, but he wasn't with Kathy at that time, but he came into my bar at Sunsets and he said, "Here's the thing I don't understand." He goes, "They call it the Ultimate Fight, UFC, the Ultimate Fighting style." He goes, "But I don't see them inviting any top world-class wrestlers in there." He goes, "I know so many good world-class wrestlers that would do great in that. I don't understand." He goes, why would they take a wrestler that they never invited a wrestler from the get-go, like a really good wrestler. And it wasn't until Dan Severn came in. And he even said, he goes, "Dan Severn's tough." He said, "But there's even wrestlers that are a higher level than him." And then that's when Coleman and Kerr and those guys started coming in. Don Fry. Don Fry was great because he was a boxer and a wrestler. I just watched a bunch of his old fights because they were showing a lot of his UFC fights in England when I was there. And it was like, oh my God, those were the best fights. The old UFC fights with Don Fry, Shamrock, some of the old fights that they were showing, and they had and then you look at the audience, it was an all-star cast in the audience. Cindy Crawford and tons of athletes were in the audience watching back then. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they were just packed, and fights were starting in the audience. I mean, it was like it was the heyday of fighting.
Back in the no rules days.
Yeah, it was great. So, and that's right when they changed, and one guy was Don Fry had gloves on, and Big Daddy Goodbridge he fought didn't have gloves on. So it's kind of weird.
Do you remember, was it Ron Van Cleef that wore one boxing glove?
Yep.
Oh, that was Jimmy. That was the first fight, the first UFC. That was the boxer, Jimmy. His name was Jimmy, and he fought Hoist because they said his right hand was so hard that he was afraid he might break his hand, or, just to make it even, just so in case he really cracked him hard that they had to put a glove on him.
That was
He didn't get to throw a punch.
Nobody knew what was going to happen. It was like crazy. I remember that. I watched it live. It was like, what the hell's going to happen? I don't know. And then that Savat dude broke that sumo guy's face.
Gerard Gordeau is actually was more of a Kyokushin.
Oh, okay.
And he was a mean Dutch guy, and he's the guy that put his finger in Yuki Nakai's eyes. And he was a tough, dirty fighter. But street fighting for him was great. And he regarded the UFC as a street fight.
Well, he kicked the teeth out of that big dude's mouth.
Kathy Long said that those teeth flew right above her head.
Yikes.
While she was sitting at the judges' table.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, everybody was like, wow, I actually feel bad for the guy that's twice the size of the other guy.
Yeah, he missed him. He spun him in the cage, and then he jumped, punched him, and then kicked him in the face.
So what happened in England?
It was good. We had a lot of the guys now are all doing jiu-jitsu. A lot of the guys wanted the STX program, and it was really good. The turnout was great, and the guys dug it. They dug the material. And then we mix it with wrestling and then grappling. And then we did a lot of, I didn't really do any ground and pound there. It was mostly catch wrestling mixed with jiu-jitsu. So you got to figure that a lot of guys now are doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Most of them are under Gracie Baja, under like Braulio, or they're under Roger. And then some are under some other guys, but they used to roll super hard because they didn't know any different. Mm. Now they roll a little different, but there's a lot of guys over there. There's about 200, from what I was told, about 270 black belts now in the UK.
Wow.
In jiu-jitsu. As before, it was all judo, mostly judo, and the wrestling was slim and none. So I tried to teach as much wrestling, standing, but mostly on the ground, mixed with the grappling. So a little more catch wrestling. And then when I went to Wigan, it was all catch wrestling. Because that's all those guys wanted. So it was good.
How many different stops did you have on the tour?
8. 8, and then 1 day of privates.
How long were you over there?
10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. It went really smooth. I mean, the hotel situation was good. Some of the guys drove us, and we had to take a couple trains, but everything went really smooth. We didn't travel too far each time we traveled. The farthest we traveled one time was 3 hours. As before, it was like 5 hours. Sometimes you travel. That's a long, and then you got to get a rest, and then you got to teach. Then you eat, go back to sleep, and you're on the train again. But this time I got to spend a little more time. We got a little more laid down time. Australia was a little different because we were getting up at 4 and 5 and getting on an airplane every day. So it was interesting because you're 100% totally absolved and directed straight to what you're supposed to be doing. In England, at least we got to rest. We got to sleep till maybe 10 to 12 usually, and then get picked up and then either jump on a train or get driven to another location. So it was pretty cool. And a lot of the guys would drive us. They would have us one night, and then they would train at the next seminar. They drive us to the next place, and they train. So, we were looked after pretty well. It was nice. The food is becoming a lot more healthy, which is nice. A lot of more people are lifting weights, and they're more into their health now. The food has definitely changed. So you can see the fitness industry has really blossomed there.
Nice. How many times a year do you do a tour over there?
I used to do 2 a year, but right now I've just got it down to 1. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sending Ben over there. Ben's been going over. He went once, and they're interested to have him again in the summer. Sometimes the summer, though, if you go there in June or July, it is so hot. And it's kind of weird because it's like hit and miss. But apparently when Ben went, he said it was so hot there. You couldn't believe it. I went there one year. There was no air conditioning in any hotel. It was all fans.
Ugh.
That year I went, there was like 30 to 40 people that died in France that year because of the heat.
No kidding.
They're just not used to the heat. And it doesn't get hot that much. So, and when it does, it's hot for a week.
Did you get a chance to look around a little bit while you're on the tour?
Not much. Not much. Like, we didn't really get a day off to really go do much. We were in Scotland. We had one day off in Scotland. And we just hung out. We rested, hung out, just caught up. Got more than anything, got to catch up with guys. And that was the good part. I just really got to hang out and just, see how things are going with people.
How's Rick Young doing?
Ricky's spectacular. He's his group of guys are doing really well. He's really focusing on his school. He's not doing many seminars, but his influence is real powerful with his guys, and he's got a lot of guys getting promoted. He's good. He's hard on his guys, but his guys are all really good.
He was great on the podcast. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but he's very popular.
Well, I've known Ricky for 30 years. He's got a great heart. Guess who sat next to me on the airplane coming home?
Who?
Damon Carroll.
Get out of here.
He sat right next to me.
Really?
Yeah, and we talked for like, Tanya goes, you didn't let him sleep. And I go, Damon doesn't sleep.
He's your old training partner.
And we talked literally for 6 hours.
How's Damon doing?
He's great. He just got done filming Wonder Woman.
Yeah, he was a second unit director on Batman versus Superman. I figured he'd
Wonder Woman now.
That's awesome.
No kidding. That's fantastic.
That entire group, all those guys are like Chad's got he's getting Highlander, isn't he? And then
he's getting Highlander, and then Dave just got
Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2. Dave Leitch got Deadpool 2. Those guys are all getting some of the top jobs. They did Wolverine.
Big movies.
What's that?
Big directing jobs. That's huge.
Yeah. Directing, stunts and directing, coordinating and directing.
Yeah, they're getting like the major directing jobs. That's wow to go from stunts to that.
Yeah, no, that's impressive.
That's amazing. Really cool. And that's pretty cool. That's your entire the STX crew. Like still
they're all working full time in the movie industry.
That's pretty.
I started going that way, and then I just kept getting more calls for fights, and I wasn't quite sure.
Oh no! I'm real happy with our Erik Paulson staying right where he is, doing the Erik Paulson thing. Believe me, the world's happy about that.
Well, I always wondered about, I still have dreams about Hollywood stuff, but I think competing against your friends for a job, that was hard for me. Mm. And then also not being on the up and up about stuff because it's such a cutthroat business. And then once you're in, then everyone kind of, I don't know. It's like, I don't know how much is not enough and how much is too much. I mean, these guys are all getting work and they all share, and that's good. But I see animosity a little bit, although they're all, it's just because they're all trying to get the best parts and the best jobs in Hollywood. And I don't know. I see a little bit of resentment with some of the people. Most of the guys are pretty cool, and some of the guys they don't show it, but you could tell that some are a little unhappy, and then some are super happy because they're working all the time. I don't know. I just martial arts is a little more secure and real. Financially, it's not what the movies pay, but I think as far as the payback for changing people's lives and getting to have the same friends in your life all the time and watch everybody grow and grow old and get good and watching people change and changing lives, I think that's value in itself. That's what Guro said to me. He took me aside. He goes, listen, I want to talk to you about your future. And then he said, listen, you could do the Hollywood thing. He goes, a lot of your friends are doing that. He goes, I don't know if that's for you, though. He goes, yeah, I think maybe martial arts is the way to go, Erik, for you. And he said, let me tell you about the seminar industry, about doing seminars your whole life. And then he sat down and just said, "Hey, I think that might be the way to go. You get to see your friends all the time. You get to watch their lives change. You get to be a part of that, and you get to just watch everything and everybody evolve, and then watch the generations change." He said, I think that's kind of for you. I think that's more for you than the movie stuff. And then that helped me make my decision, and then that's what I did.
Well, I'm very thankful for that conversation because we're just getting going here. We're just getting things even more organized and more systematized, and the creativity that's coming out. You're not even remotely appreciated to where you should be yet. Like the insiders know, but it's just getting going. It's only going to get better over the next 10 years. I'm so excited, and I'm so happy that you decided to do what you decided to do, because I geek out as much as anybody about the movie stuff. I love it. I mean, I live for that stuff. But,
yeah, I do too. But I enjoy talking to the guys, but they don't talk much about it. That's the thing. It's like they don't really want to say too much about stuff, and it's like I don't want all the inside scoop, but I just ask how everything's going. And, I'm interested. They're my friends.
Oh,
I'm not trying to hustle them for a job. I'm not looking for work. I'm truly concerned. I'm like, hey, how's everything going? What's it like? That's it. And then I just ask, are you happy? That's the big one. Are you happy? And I think the hardest thing for them is being away from home for so long. Sometimes that's a tough one.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that very much.
I like to be home. I mean, I don't like to be home all the time, but I like to be home. And I can't imagine if I was in my house 2 weekends a year or 2 weeks out of the year. That wouldn't make me very happy.
Yeah, not for me. But I do love that people that are pretty closely associated with our little group are doing so well. It's exciting, but I'm also equally, probably a lot more excited. I think you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
I think so. I think I made the right choice. I asked over and over, and I could tell when I go to England, and I teach every day, and that's all I do is just eat, teach, and hang out with people and have fun and talk, and then I get to eat and teach and teach and teach and then teach, and then it's funny. When I come back, I feel so centered and focused. Like maybe I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I think that's why I was sent here.
I definitely agree with that, because I think what you're doing now is changing the industry a little bit.
Well, not just. I think we also have to change the consciousness of people's mentality throughout the world, and I don't think by just giving stuff away, but I think by sharing information and then being totally creative with stuff and thinking outside the box. Changing people's thought patterns and giving them stuff that they can use that most people don't use or don't do or haven't seen yet. I think that's important.
Have you seen any of the stuff that our affiliate in India has been sharing on Facebook?
No, I haven't.
It's amazing. He's got these huge groups of girls that he's teaching.
Oh, I did see that. Yes, I did. He's teaching self-defense to all these girls.
It's awesome. I'm like,
yes.
You watch him. They're doing the moves and they're up there demoing, and I'm going, right there is a whole group of kids who could be victimized, and I'm watching them learn how to defend themselves, and they're doing CSW. I was totally jumping around looking at that, and I'm like, look, they're doing the curriculum right there, and there's some little girls who aren't going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny. I was watching. I didn't even know that guy was affiliated with us.
Yeah, he's one of our guys.
Yeah. There's like 600 plus girls.
He has the ability to really make a major impact on society. That's the epitome of what we do, where it needs to go. Like right there, you're changing the world right there.
Yeah, I was so excited when he posted that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I hope Erik is seeing this, because that's a direct line right to you.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know that he was our guy.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Cool. Yeah, he just came on recently and immediately jumped on it and started working the curriculum and teaching it to these big groups of girls. And
He's actually planning on coming to the first coach camp next year. I've been talking to him about plane tickets and everything. He's going to come over and probably stay a couple of weeks. May end up doing some privates.
I like the fact that that's somebody that's giving it back. The same with little Vic doing the bully proof thing and, helping the kids out, because the kids are our future, but the Bully Me Now program is spectacular. It's really important that people change people's lives, and also the police and military stuff too, that we can influence the special forces and teach the DEA and the ATF. We got the FBI and a lot of the police forces using what we teach because it works. And a lot of it doesn't even go to the ground, and that's important because you don't always want to go to the ground when you got a weapon on you.
True.
You touched on that a little bit in the MMA shoot we did a few weeks ago. It was during the technical get-up portion, and you mentioned law enforcement. You don't have to, sometimes you can't get to your feet if you have all your gear on and you go to the knees, and then you went to a double, and you actually touched on that a little bit, how it relates to law enforcement. And
well, I was trying to teach the technical get-up, the Gracie get-up to a lot of the ATF guys, and he told me while he was the DE or the DT, and he was training a lot of the officers, he said a lot of them had a big problem getting up to their feet. Mm-hmm. And he said, due to donuts. And then he said their vests and their waistbands, they've got the gun belts, they got tons of equipment, and they've got the bulletproof vest on. He said a lot of them were able to get to their knees, and he goes, what should we do here? And I go, block and hit a double leg. Block a knee and grab and hit a double leg and trip them. And go on top and stand back up. So that was the big thing there, because they weren't able to get back up to their feet. Well, I found that a lot of the fighters, when they kick people off, they aren't able to get up, so they get to their knee, and then the guy runs and jumps on you, and then they block, and then they hit the double. So that's really good, very useful.
Well, that block of material is in the DVD that's coming out probably next week. It'll probably be out by the time this podcast is released.
Wow, that's great.
And
thank you for turning that around so fast.
Oh yeah,
we just shot it, and then all of a sudden, bang, the product's already out. I know you've been working really hard on there.
Well,
a lot of hours.
Here's what's cool. I average between probably, it varies. Like the shorter DVDs, some of them can be 20, 30 hours. But some of the bigger projects we do can be hundreds of hours of editing because it's so much material. Just that one shoot was over 100 techniques.
The ground and pound?
Yeah.
There's a lot of material in there.
Wow.
So, and this is for people listening or watching the video. I'm sure a lot of your fans are already familiar with your teaching style. Like it's the fire hose. It's this variation, that variation, that variation, that variation. All this stuff starts coming out so fast. But what I've started to do, and I was doing this with you early on, but I'm really a stickler with it now. Now that I've been working real close with Alan and Don on curriculum and things like that. Sometimes the little details get missed. It goes by so fast. So I have control over what's happening with that information on this end because I'm an editor. So what I started doing is, that's why there's so many techniques, because every time you do a variation, I chop it, and it's another block, and then another block, and they'll see it on this one especially. As we're going back through the CSW curriculum and the STX curriculum and the upcoming MMA system, the full system, you need to have every single piece of that broken down in a manageable system, because what we're trying to do now with everyone is scale the CSW Association. So this is a little preview. We've been working really hard behind the scenes. This is, mainly for our affiliates, but for anybody else who's interested in that, and this is why we're talking about, you see those girls in India doing the same thing, and then anybody anywhere should be on the same page with our stuff. And the whole point is to take this stuff and make these big, unapproachable blocks of material, break them down to where everybody can get it in these smaller digestible chunks easily. And we can, break it up in levels, and you can get this easily. And then on top of that, after you've met the the minimum requirements and you can memorize the information, because this is pretty intimidating stuff when you're watching Erik Paulson do this stuff. If you can get the minimum requirements and memorize this stuff in a real friendly and easy way, it scales. On top of that is when that artistry, I think we talked about this with Rick Young, that's when that artistry starts to happen on top of that, because you've got your basics down now, you've got your foundation. Now, here's where your personality can come out. That's when you can find out if you're training just to self-defense or you just like to stay in shape, or if you want to go the fighter route. All those different variations can start coming out. But if you start missing big chunks of information early on and you don't have your basics down, you're not going to be able to do all those other things. You're going to get exposed. When the pressure's on and the higher levels you go, you're going to get exposed. You're not going to be able to do it. And so what we've been doing and working real hard on, like in the technical manuals and really breaking down these systems, and I've been working with Don and Alan on actual class breakdowns and scheduling things for affiliates. So there's you could say you could have a 12-week or a 20-week rotating scale just to plug these things into your schools. So everybody, if you're a level 1 in CSW, it doesn't matter what school you go to. You're going to be training the same things, and you're going to have a good idea of what you're getting into. And the same thing with STX. I had, when I was in Atlanta for the CDP, Don came in and pulled me aside and gave me a whole session on, he looked at level 1. It took 2 full days of Erik working with our affiliates just to get through level 1. And he was flying, like he wasn't going slow, just to try to get through that one level. So what we're doing is trying to take that and really dissect that and make that more manageable chunks so we can disseminate that information in a much more efficient way. And it's no small task, because the guy we have here on the podcast, I know I'm kind of bogarting a little bit, but the guy we have on the podcast with us has more information that comes out of him than I could ever in my lifetime try to digest. And it's difficult to try to keep up with him. Believe me. I
appreciate the way you're doing it, though, and the way you're breaking it down, because sometimes the older DVDs and the older tapes and DVDs used to be more of a show than anything. And these guys were complaining. I had guys complain there was too much information on, and they couldn't understand. I go, hey, that's why it's a video, because you plug it back in, you keep watching it for like 10 years.
Oh yeah.
So that, it sucks is to get a video that's got 5 basic techniques. You plug it in, you watch it once, and then you throw it away. You never watch it again because you think you mastered those 5. It's a lifetime's work of information. You can always go back to and do it and keep going back to it. And the whole thing is your mind should be expanded. And the whole objective with the videos are to inspire people. Creativity, to open your mind, to think outside the box, and to look at things a little bit differently, and then also help you to create your own.
Well, you've always had that. You're actually known for that. It's the creativity and some pretty heavy hitter guys we've talked to have said that repeatedly. Like, I don't know where that's coming from, but he's right in front of us creating things, and I don't know where that came from, but there's some kind of blend going on there, and it's awesome. And it's our job to take that awesome and make it so someone who is just a regular dude kind of be the bridge and go, okay, because I know you can teach basics, better than anybody. However, we don't want to saddle you with that. Like, here's, you have to teach it this way. That's our job, is to take that and do those smaller, basic, fundamental kind of things and break it up, because we want the awesome to continue to happen and just let you go.
Both are important. I think it's important that you really focus. I think it's important to teach a basic class for people, because it makes you really let them realize what is truly important, and then just break it down so it's so simplified that even a caveman could do it. So you could be in a Geico commercial. So your whole goal is to to teach to the newest guy on the mat, a little kid that knows nothing, and then the most advanced guy in the world, and then the top level fighter. You should be able to do things, because even then, at the highest level, everything has to become simplified again. Mm-hmm. There's nothing so complex and technical. You see some of these guys teaching techniques. It's like an 8-step program to get to someone's back, an 8-step program to get an arm bar or a leg lock, when it just needs to be simple. And I think the more simplified we could get things without going over the top, the only reason I think it becomes advanced is because most people have never seen some of this stuff, or the ideals and the ideas of doing them.
Well, it's Bruce Lee, right? It's the it's the simplification. It's the hard part. It's the chiseling away.
You make the ordinary extraordinary. It's the numbers of reps that you do. What makes a white belt a black belt is 10,000 reps. 10,000 reps at an armbar, you have a black belt armbar.
Have you noticed a little bit of a feeling in the community, MMA community? I'm sensing a little bit of blowback against the. There's kind of a not everybody, but there's a little bit of a showboat and thug mentality that's going on a lot, and it's kind of turning a lot of people off. And they're mentioning martial arts a lot more, like to become a martial artist. Like that mentality's been lost a little bit.
Of course it has. All these guys, everyone wants to fight, but hey, what happens when you're done fighting? What have you got? What are you going to teach people? How to be a thug? You can teach people how to be tough. Tough with what? Tough with your punch, taking a punch. Great. Now what? Do you have a boxing background? Because how are you going to teach people how to box if you don't have a boxing background? If you're used to being a punching bag and you're tough and you got a great chin. So the whole thing, hey, how are you going to teach any martial art if you don't have a martial arts background? So you guys, sometimes what they're doing is they're just putting everything together and they're doing great because they're athletes, but then they really don't have a martial art background, a martial art or complex martial arts background or pedigree of martial arts background where they can actually go in and teach deeper into an art.
Yeah.
I actually hear that a lot. I get, at the school here, we'll get a lot of guys that'll call and want to be employed and fighters most of the time. And that's one of the first things I'll ask them is, what's your background?
Oh, I'm a fighter. Oh, okay. Do you have a martial arts background? Yeah, I'm a Taekwondo black belt. But you're an MMA fighter. Oh. You don't have a wrestling background at all? Don't have a Jiu-Jitsu background at all? Do you have a judo background? Do you have a boxing background? I mean, did you do any other arts? And how far did you get with them before you decided you just wanted to fight? I mean, it was funny because I did so many martial arts. I was getting sick of martial arts, and I said, now what do I do? I've trained in all these different arts. Now what do I do with all this information? Find out what works. That's why I started fighting. I wanted to see what worked and what didn't, how far I could go, what I could do with it. That's why I fought. I wanted to put it on the line.
You certainly did that back in the day when...
Nobody wanted to fight. When I fought, nobody wanted to fight. Everyone said, you're crazy. I can't believe you're doing that. And then the bare knuckle fights, everyone's like, oh, there's a chance you might die. And then I have a guy who's a race car driver. He drives 200 miles an hour around a racetrack, and he goes, hey, what else you do besides bartend? I go, oh, I fight in Japan. He goes, oh, what kind of fighting? I go, well, you could punch, you could kick, you could throw, and you could submit. He goes, you mean like anything goes? And I go, almost. You can't headbutt. You can't elbow in Japan, but everything else is legal. Almost. He goes, man, you're crazy. Crazy. You could die doing that. And I'm like, what about you driving 200 miles an hour around a racetrack? And he goes, oh, yeah, that's control. You have control over that. You can't control, these fights. I mean, couldn't you die doing that? And I was like, wow. Next thing you know, so now later on, turned 94, 95, 96, now everyone wants to fight. So now everyone wants to fight. Now jiu-jitsu guys want to fight. Judo guys want to fight. Wrestlers are fighting now. Everyone wants to fight. So now everyone's a fighter. Then everyone starts buying Tap Out and Affliction and Warrior Wear and all the cool fight clothes that everyone was wearing, and everyone wants to be a fighter. And then all of a sudden the Ultimate Fighter show came on, and all of a sudden they show that all these fighters are now starting to become coaches. And so now all these fighters want to become coaches. So now everyone's trying to be a coach because now the cool thing is to be a coach. Well, if you're a fighter, why are you coaching? Because you should be focusing on your fighting, not your coaching. Leave the coaching to the coaches. The reason the coaches are coaches is because they can't fight anymore. Maybe they're too old. Maybe they're broken. So leave it to that. Suddenly all these fighters, so these guys decide they all want to be coaches now. So now everyone wants to be a coach. They don't want to be a fighter. They want to be a coach and a fighter. But they want to do both. So that's kind of where it sits right now. All the guys want to coach now. You coach when you can't fight anymore. When you're done fighting, that's when you coach. I didn't even want to coach. I decided to coach because I wasn't quite sure what to do at the end of my career when I was done fighting. And I knew at 42 when I fought, and this guy goes, kill him, grandpa. Last thing I do is go fight again in front of everybody. People don't want to see old guys fight.
I remember
People
that
want
one.
to see young guys fight. They don't want to see old guys fight. It's time to coach. And then you have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge from your past because you fought. So hopefully you have a good teaching pedigree somehow that you can actually put things together. And if you have a scientific mind, a creative mind, something of an organized mind, you can start putting things together and you can start training things and sit back and ponder thought and meditate and figure out what you did that made you successful and then relate it to your fighters. And the thing is you can't be Mr. Nice Guy. Oh, come on. Oh, it's okay. You have to be stern with them. You almost have to treat it like a military style training because therefore everyone knows protocol. Everyone knows exactly how things work. You have to be on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you show up a half hour early for practice. You run every day before practice. That's important. And then you train. And then when you're done, then you do some extra stuff at the end, and then take a nap, eat right, and then go do something maybe in the daytime. Maybe you'll go do some cardio or something in the day, and then you come back for night practice, unless you have a real job. And then you would run instead. But the thing is you have to treat it like that. You have to have it. You have to be hard on your guys because that's how these guys are going to win. You can't be a nice Mr. Nice Guy. Oh, I'm concerned about this. You can be concerned about people, but you have to be hard and stern with them. That's important.
Well, and that's the respect factor. Back to it's more like a martial artist, not just just a fighter. I mean, fighters are awesome. Don't get me wrong, but
second you start being too nice to people, they think that you're a pushover. Next thing they dismiss your kindness as your weakness. Yeah. And then they try to take advantage of that.
Especially with a bunch of alphas like that, they will run over you if you don't establish some boundaries.
Boundaries, very important. Communication, very important.
Now, what about a lot of the ex-fighters? Have you seen a lot of successful transitions into successful businesses or successful careers? Or
some guys are smart because they invested their money. Some guys are super smart because they invested their money, and they know that they have to have a future after what they were doing. So one of the biggest things is they look forward to their future by putting money away into investments, real estate, or whatever it was, and then they had their future planned out a little bit. Maybe they're going to go into the movies. Maybe into the stunt work a little bit. Maybe they're going to open a gym and train their own group of fighters. But that's a big thing is when these guys are making all this money, what are they doing with that money? Don't go buy a bunch of new houses and new cars and everything depreciates so fast. And next thing you know, the market crashes, you lose your houses, your cars are no longer worth what you think they were. Those are bad investments. Maybe invest into a couple great mutual funds, buy some gold and silver and hide it, and just keep that as a little backup financially. Maybe invest a little bit in the stock market or get a real strong bond, some strong bonds. But the mutual funds are kind of a surefire long-term way to ensure a great financial future for yourself.
Isn't it a bit of a myth, though, that fighters make money? Don't most of them just not make much money?
Yeah, a lot of them don't make too much money.
It's a big commitment for not much return. It's more of a you need to do it kind of thing, right?
Yeah, pride, ego, and
like a calling.
Yeah, and the thing is like the way McGregor has, these other guys are trying to be loud and obnoxious like that, and you just have to find your own niche and who you are and what you are and what people like you for, and you don't have to be loud and obnoxious to get a good fanfare and disrespectful. He's so over the top that people, they don't know, but then you could see there's a humbleness to him. When he lost, he remained very humble, which was also a nice quality inside to see. The guys that are always swearing and calling people names, I don't like that, because what happens when you're done fighting? You're going to continue to swear and call people names. I like the guys that praise and they actually lift people up. They lift their opponents up. They go, man, this guy I'm fighting is one of the best fighters in the world. This guy's one of the best guys. This guy's the best grappler. Therefore, when he loses to him, he still fought and lost to the best grappler in the world. Salinas was notorious for building his opponents up. So there were these huge superstars. So if he beat him, he was a superstar. And if he lost to a superstar. That's smart. That's smart. That guy was very smart. Valid always thought great about all of his opponents.
I'm forgetting the guy's name. Who's the guy? It's popular on Facebook right now. Who, like, he took a selfie during his way in and he gave one guy flowers. And who is that guy? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
There's a bunch of videos that he reminds me of the old Erik Paulson back in the day. He used to tell jokes and stuff. I used to
just tell jokes. My whole thing was just I was joking all the time, just so I wouldn't get butterflies. I think that was my cover up for butterflies, because I remember right before I walked out to the ring, I was telling Guro Dan a joke, and Guru's all nervous, and I'm telling him a joke, and all of a sudden they call my name, and he goes, "Erik, you got to go. They just called your name." I'm like, "Oh, all right, I'll tell you the punchline when I'm done. I'll see you later." And that was my only way to cover up not getting butterflies.
What was Chad like as your corner man? Was he more serious, or did he joke around with you and stuff?
No, totally serious. Totally serious. And he'd get nervous. He was really nervous for me. He was great. He authentically, truly cared. He wanted to beat me up and make me my best. He pulled the best out of me and made me do the best I could. And he was there every day. The guy was there early all the time for practice and yelled at me every day for being late.
I don't know him, but I met him, but I really don't know him.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. He's very disciplined.
That's why Chad is as far as he is in the stunt industry, because he's so disciplined with his work ethic. Same with Damon Caro and Dave Leach and Brad Martin, all those guys. But Chad's definitely the go-getter. I mean, he did his research. He looked at boards on his walls. He had all the names of what producer was doing, what director was working on what movie, who they were, and who the background of all the guys in the cast were. I mean, he really does his homework, and he does research and development all the time. He's always consistently researching. He yells at all his guys for not going in and doing background stuff like research. And he's always researching new things and the best things. And, if he's not training and practicing, he's researching. And that's important.
Yeah, real super top level martial artist too. Top level. And work ethic, but with the research and development, he's looking at the best of the best. He's researching all the karate. He's going back to old jiu-jitsu, old karate. He's looking at all the old stuff and all the stuff that was lost. That's no longer in our consciousness. As far as the martial arts, he's going back and doing old school Japanese jiu-jitsu. Then we added the gun to the jiu-jitsu, like one-headed jiu-jitsu with the gun jitsu, or they call gun fu. Like for John Wick.
And then he's got a guy who's a Nike jiu-jitsu guy. His name is Guillermo, and Guillermo did the gun jiu-jitsu stuff and put it together for John Wick and John Wick 2. And then he sent Keanu out to one of the top shooters. I think it's out in Orange County here somewhere. Hoist Gracie goes to him too. Hoist Gracie is an unbelievable shooter, by the way, because he trains all the ATF DEA guys, and they bring him shooting, and he's like a master shooter. But they brought Keanu, and Keanu spent a lot of money to go learn how to shoot. So he learned tactical shooting. There's some videos up. And now
really
Chad
good.
goes and does that too. So it's interesting to see Chad going in and doing that too, because it's just another realm or aspect of martial arts is shooting. Gun disarms, shooting, really huge. That's why Krav Maga became so famous, because they addressed all the gun disarms. Whereas Kali never really taught gun disarms. They taught the shooting. Pakita Tursha's got the whole shooting system, but they taught nothing with the gun disarms. And the gun disarm is like a huge seller. So for Krav Maga, that was a big seller for those guys, is the gun disarms. Gun disarms, gun disarms, gun disarms.
What's Guro Dan think of all this? Have you talked to him recently about what's going on, like with the trends, like about every decade, like what gets popular and what people are working on? What's
It's all 10-year cycles. Everything's based on 10-year cycle, and they come in and go out and come back, and just like bottom jeans.
What do you think's next, Coach? What's coming in the future?
Gosh, I think more realistic self-defense stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe some group MMA fights, like the Russians were doing.
Right, saw a few
over in Europe. That's interesting. A lot of those guys get hurt, though, I think, but that's fun to watch. I don't know, maybe things like that. I'm not quite sure. How long is the fighting going to last before it gets too boring? They really oversaturate it with fights every other week, because there's so many fighters. They have to have fights all the time. I remember when the UFC was like every 2 or 3 months, and you waited to watch that next UFC. Now it's like you can find UFC on Channel 32 on Fox almost every other night. They're showing repeats, but it's cool because you get to see fights that you never saw before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's put it in the mainstay media, so you get to see it all the time. But it doesn't make it as dynamic and as spectacular as every 2 months when there was a UFC and you invite everyone to your house and place bets on all these fights and have a big pot or a kitty in the middle. Everyone's throwing $5 in to win a bet on who's going to win. Stuff like that. I mean, when it's every other weekend, then it's like, oh, hey, did you see the UFC last week? And they go, no, I'll catch the next one, but I'll just catch the next one next week.
What about in Japan? What's big in Japan right now? Is Shuto still around? They're still doing it?
They're always going to be around, because they were the #1 creator of MMA from 1982. They've had the most MMA fights of all leagues out there, and they have some of the most technical fighters. There's not much money in their sport because they keep it small, but technical-wise, the fighters are great. They still continue to go on. Then you have Pancrase, and then there's some other shows they're trying to bring some other big shows up, but I don't think anything will be as big as Pride was. There's shows here and there, but I don't know how much money they make or how much money they lose, so I don't know it's going to be big. If they've got some big stuff going on, big shows. I know a couple guys. I just trained a guy. He fought over there, and I believe a show called Risen. And there is some money to be made, but nothing like Pride. Pride was the king of that one.
Bring your focus back to the association for a little bit. I know you just added another coach training camp to the program you run for coaches, because we just did it here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Let's get you to talk about that a little bit, what happened, what the training was like.
Well, apparently people loved it because I stuck straight to the guidelines and to the curriculum, and we went right through almost military style for just going through the whole STX curriculum. We got through level 1, which was, I thought I could get through all 5. Are you kidding me?
It's like 3 days of training too, all day.
Yeah, level 1. So that's a ton of information. That's a year's worth of info, as Don Guerin said. But some guys are obviously more advanced than that. So then you could implement and break each level and cut them up and teach them in your class. But you gotta routinely run through the standard of how to ride a kick, how to evade a kick, how to shield a kick, how to catch a kick. All your defense against a jab cross, which is like windshield wiper defense, double pillar defense, double parry defense, oh crap cover, alternate elbow defense, double slip defense. Where some people just go, oh, level 1 should just be punch and double pillar defense, and that's it, because that's basic and what you could use. I mean, if you want to keep it simple. But since there's so many different arts that's combined, you're learning the best of the best, and then you're obviously going to pick and choose what you like the best and the most. And also by sparring, you learn it by sparring. You actually get to lightly spar and figure out what works for you and what you really like. And that's good because you get to try 5 dishes of food and choose which 2 you like the best, instead of force-fed one dish saying this is the best food you could ever eat.
Well, that's one of the things I like about everything you teach. It's tested live. It's not theory. You actually put it out there, and you have to perform it with resistance.
Well, more than anything, the secret in the end is learning the information and drilling, because drillers make killers, by the way. And then by drilling so much and padding, you got to spar. But then when you spar too much, you get bored with sparring. So drilling is important, pad work's important. It's all important mixed together. But you got to spar every day. And even if it's timing sparring, it's still considered sparring. The 3-for-3 drill is spectacular. It's the closest thing to sparring without actually sparring. And then you can spar in slow motion and have fun, and then just start turning up a little bit, and then there's obviously those crazy people that want to bang, and then we just set those people on the side and let them bang a little bit, because basically what they're going to do anyways is they're going to go home on the weekend with their buddies, they're going to drink, and they're going to drunken spar or drunken wrestle in their living room with all their buddies and pals on the weekend. So, there are those guys that want to go hard and just, pat them up and make sure they got a mouthpiece, a cup, and possibly a headgear. The headgear stops against only cuts, not it doesn't stop concussions. It actually amplifies a hit, but it stops from headbutt so you don't get cut. So that's about it. It doesn't stop broken noses either. But sparring is the secret and sparring on the ground and sparring standing, because there's not enough time in the world to get your timing so great as to roll and spar. Doesn't have to be hard. I could spar with a little kid and still have fun, or I could spar with an old man and have fun and still get good and get them good and still get tired doing that. Same thing when you roll.
Who came up with the original survival drill, the wall survival drill? Because that is my absolute favorite drill that you've ever taught me.
Well, Tim Tackett came back from Thai camp one year, and he made one of our guys, Mark. He made Dennis Blue put this guy Mark in the corner on the bag and just defend, and then Dennis just punched him as hard as he could for like 2 minutes, just nonstop, and you had to survive the whole thing. So that was the original survival drill. And then I changed it to a windshield wiper because I was training with a man named Charlie Gergen. He was my boxing coach, and he said, this is the best defense. When you're pressing somebody, your rear hand picks everything up. So I played with that. And then I had some guys go, no, it was all double pillar. It was either double pillar or double parry defense or two-hand defense. So I said, well, why can't I just combine it? So that's why I always teach the windshield wiper, and I teach the two-handed defense, and then I combine the two.
Well, and as usual, you systematized it and you broke it up into levels of intensity, and you can come off the wall at a different level, or there's different. You broke it down into a system, but I think it's brilliant. It's almost sparring. It's actually, in some ways, maybe even better because you're seeing things.
Every single guy that I've ever trained to fight all had to do the wall survival drill, and it helped save their face because you see punches. Ken Shamrock got so good at it, I couldn't even put my hands on him. He got so good at the wall survival drill. I was impressed. I was so impressed. We did it for 8 months, and I couldn't put my hands on him. I was like, damn, his defense is great. It's because it trains your eyes, and it also makes you so you're not scared. You just punch, and then you just keep your eyes open, you move your head, and you catch everything with your hands. Therefore, you're not afraid. So let's look at self-defense. You got a guy that wants to punch your face in, and you're good at the wall survival drill because you do it in class all the time. That is the best drill you could ever learn, how not to get punched in the face. So now a guy can't punch you in the face. So now he decides he wants to shoot on you or body lock you or take you down. But now you've hand fought every day in class too. So your defense on your hips and your hands and your head control and your underhooks and overhooks, not allowing somebody to get a hold on you. And you do the seal control drill from the back. They take your back. They can't get their hands together. They can't get their arm around your neck. They try a high crotch, and you know exactly. That is the best form of self-defense, whatever, as far as defense goes. All the get-ups from the ground, you get taken down. How do you get back up to your feet? The technical get-up with that, and then all the hip heist drills, perfect. That's great for self-defense. Then you're on the ground. You got someone trying to punch your face in. You just work the wall survival drill on the ground. You keep your composure. There it is, the ultimate self-defense system right there, without adding a weapon.
I think Alan's having a heart attack right now. You just laid out 2018 for us with the self-defense.
It literally is the best. Literally is the best. This guy goes, I'm gonna knock you out, and all of a sudden he comes to punch you and he can't touch you. And he's like, how can I not punch you? How can I not hit you? Because you're so used to getting punched at every day. Your hands are too good. Then all of a sudden he's like, screw that, I'm going to grab you. And he shoots in, well, I'll just take you down. And then he can't get you down because he can't get his hands on you. Or you trip and you fall, he's on top. Now he goes, I'm going to punch your face in. But he can't because you're so used to defending your face, so he can't hit you. And there it is. He takes you down, you get back up. Next thing you know, he takes your back. He can't do anything to your back. You hip away and you're square back to one.
I like those odds.
Now it's your turn.
Well, see, I like that a lot of schools, they'll say, you get confidence from martial arts, etc. But true confidence, you have to earn true confidence. You can't just say, hey, I earned a belt. So, I mean, I learned it myself the hard way. Like, get my ass kicked, I didn't know how to fight. The only way you learn how to do that is like these kind of, you don't have to be a fighter and get your face kicked in all the time to develop that confidence. But truly, your system, and when I started training with you, is the first time that I truly could say something I'm training every day works. And I really didn't develop true confidence in myself and what I could do until it was actually getting put to the test on a regular basis. Like, it was contested. We were doing things. I know this works. I've got my friends and my training partners doing this stuff to me all the time. So there's no doubt in every time that we're doing it, this stuff comes out and it works. So then you can kind of relax, and then you know your tools are there. And I think sometimes that gets lost when it's like, well, I'm doing my kicks, and I'm like, wait a minute. You still have
theory. You're teaching theory.
Right. You got to do it.
Theory, let's put theory to the test. That's why it has to be battle tested and combat ready and battle proven. Those three things: battle tested, combat ready, and battle proven. And then you've also got to be able to stand the test by standing there and being able to take a punch or not getting hit, not getting taken down, countering a shot, going down, sweeping somebody, getting back on top.
And you mentioned it before, composure. It's funny.
Confidence. Composure equals confidence.
Yeah, and then I've heard Greg said a funny thing like swatting at the bees. You can tell somebody who hasn't done these things, like they get punched in the face one time, and then they're swatting at the bees, like it all goes right out the window because they haven't done this kind of drilling or training. They
go into oh shit land. Yeah. Oh shit land is not a good place to be.
But guys like you and obviously Guro and Greg Nelson, and all of our coaches, it's real training. Just from my own experience, I didn't develop. I mean, I did Taekwondo, since I was 11 years old. And I mean, I trained for years and years and years, but it wasn't until my early 20s when I was exposed to Guro, and then almost immediately you. and some of our other instructors, that's when I really started to get it with that real wow. And then the first time somebody, I tried to train in jiu-jitsu and got owned. I'm like, oh my God, it was Shuto too back there. When you came around in 93 and we did that first seminar in Maryland, I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Like, this is just awful. Like, I can't do anything. Like, and that really woke me up.
Positioning on the ground, controlling positioning, transitioning. Then you got your escapes and your reversals. Another way to keep your composure is, when you're in a bad situation, to keep your composure because you know how you're going to get out. Or nullifying or neutralizing your partner or your opponent so they can't actually hurt you and do stuff to you, and you're on your way to getting out or reversing them.
But what a great thing to, and you'll hear, I'm sure, a lot of testimonials like this, that it's not the prepackaged confidence builder thing. No, this is how it really works. And let's be honest, it's not always easy to get it. But back to that new affiliate that we have, Sahil Chopra in India, teaching all those girls. You're watching him teach them real stuff. And wow, the change that's going to bring, it just warmed my heart to see those girls.
How many girls he had. I can't believe it. I was looking going, how does he get so many girls? I mean, is it a girls' club? Is it an all-girls school? Or
I don't know. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of
the ones that need self-defense obviously are the girls. They need to learn. In third world countries, guys treat girls like crap and do stuff whenever they feel like it, and they get away with it. So that's very empowering for a woman.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's just, I can't wait to see where that goes, just because it just made me smile. I didn't even expect him to do that. I didn't know he was going to do that and show all that stuff. And I'm going, all right there just made my year, because some stuff that we're doing is having that kind of an effect. Oh man. Like that isn't about money at all. That's just somebody's life might be saved just from some stuff that we might have touched. Like, that's pretty cool. It's just, that's my my hallmark moment. It's just, wow, that is awesome.
I got tears in my eyes when I was watching him teach like that. I was pretty amazed at just the amount of girls he was touching and the realistic information that he was giving them.
Sorry, Alan, I went away from a little association stuff back into that, but that really meant a lot to me to see that.
Oh yeah, it's great. I've got to chat with him a few times, just Messenger on Facebook, and it sounds like he's really doing some great stuff. Looking forward to having him in the States next year.
What do you have planned for us next year, Alan? We're coming towards the end of the year now. Maybe the last podcast with Coach of 2016. What's coming up?
Well, we're finishing up the MMA program. That's been out there for a little bit, and everybody knows that's coming. I have heard through the grapevine that Coach is working on a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program for the association.
Woohoo!
I'm not going to mention that on this podcast because I don't want to give it away, but maybe I get Coach to tell me a little bit about what he's putting together and what he sees for the future of that program in the association.
Well, I know a lot of guys are implementing the Jiu-Jitsu program into their schools. And I think it's important because you're going to be competing with a lot of other schools around you that are doing that. Don't just be known as a no-gi program. Add the gi. I like the gi. When I was fighting, I took the gi off because I wasn't using it much, but I always loved training in the gi. And then when I stopped fighting, I put it back on. And when I teach it, I embrace it. I like both. I like to wear the gi, and some days I like not to wear the gi. Some days I like to walk in and punch people in the face and get punched in the face, and then some days I like to walk in and get taken down and slammed and have somebody try to rip my leg or my arm off, and I like to do the same. So I believe that the gi program, the retention, it'll help with your retention, with your school members, with all your students. It'll help them to stay longer in your school because it's a 8 to 10 year program to get a black belt. Mm-hmm. And the farther you get along with it, people get excited and to see people get promoted. It helps out. It helps your retention, definitely. So I have been looking at all these different curriculums for belt rankings, white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt, and literally gone over at least 10 different people's curriculums to see. Some people's are teeny and some are just amazingly huge. And I think it needs to be simplified. I don't think it needs to be too complex. I think you could actually go off and get very complex into all the cool sweeps and all. But again, ABC, which is basically what jiu-jitsu is, it's take down, pass the guard, get to side control, mount, punch their face. They give you the arm, they roll to their belly, and you choke them. That's ABC. So I think mastery of those 5 positions, and then obviously addressing the others, because you have the half guard game and all the guard games, and and we have a lot of guys that are actually up to be promoted in the next year or so for their black belt. We're going to have a lot. I know we're going to have a lot of black belts, a lot of brown belts, a lot of black belts. A lot of guys are getting rank, and they're going to be ranked, and there's going to be a lot of them. And they should have that program implemented in their school and promoting the same way and building that thing solid and really helping the jiu-jitsu community, not just the catch wrestling. It should be mixed. And like I said, CSW is a mixture of Brazilian jiu-jitsu and catch wrestling and wrestling mixed, and with judo and sambo and some of the shudo. But the whole objective is to have a system of a gi system put in line with the correct ranking order, so guys can actually test people up and help retain students in their school.
Are you going to do any of the old school self-defense?
I'm not quite sure. Self-defense has to be a part of it. It's very important that people need to learn how to break the grips and all that. I might just start with all the technique on the ground, all the ground techniques, everyone, and then add a self-defense program on the side. I'm not quite sure.
Nice.
It all needs to be integrated because it's part jiu-jitsu. If you look at what jiu-jitsu truly is, it was a self-defense system. It was a self-defense. All the old books, all the old pictures, all that. And then what happened is it got to the ground and became this huge sport. So it's so funny because Master Higgins said, let's forget about the takedowns. Let's get to the ground where the meat and potatoes are. Let's just see where you guys are at there. So obviously you could spend a ton of time with your takedowns and your throws. But the thing is, a self-defense portion, yeah, of course, you need to learn how to defend against stuff, because in today's modern age, you're going to have to use stuff out in the street regularly. And I believe that the self-defense has to be integrated, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet. But I know that the curriculum will be on for every level: white to blue, blue to purple, purple to brown, brown to black.
Fantastic. And we just did DVD on the ground and pound, and I'm hoping to see some downloadable products or DVDs maybe next year sometime on the jiu-jitsu program, possibly.
Well, it's all in the works. Writing, researching, writing out curriculum, testing it out in classes to see if it's too much or if it's too little.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is your performance. It's your time in, your display of technique, your loyalty, how many classes you come to. But your performance also is very important also. And then also, do you compete? Some people compete. So would I give a belt faster if somebody competes regularly? Yeah, you'll get belted faster. But you also have to you have to display technique. You got to put your time in, but if you're competing, you'll probably get belted a little bit faster for some people. Because I got some guys that are competing so much. I mean, the guys had 30 competitions this last year as a brown belt.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's competing all the time, almost every other week. Wow. He's competing every week. He's competing. So, that's obviously as important, I believe, too. But if guys don't, not everyone's going to compete. So you can't just say, "Oh, okay," unless you compete, you're not going to get belted. No, it will help accelerate your belting though, by competing and putting it on the line, because you take one match or let's say one fight, one real MMA fight is equivalent to at least 6 months to a year of training time, because you see things differently because of the speed and the factor of you have to adjust yourself. So I believe that you enhance your level by putting it on the line. Don't always have to, but it helps. Look at the fighters. They see things a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
But a right cross comes streaming across the cage and tries to go right through your head, as opposed to you just sparring and somebody trying to punch at your face in practice. There's a little bit difference right there.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I've obviously been in several of your classes at the main training center, and honestly, I always come away impressed by how you piece things together. So I'm pretty excited about it. Honestly.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited too, but I'm also excited for a lot of the guys, because a lot of the guys are gonna be getting belted, and that empowers them and will empower their school, and it's nice to see the seeds blossom.
Mm-hmm.
The trees grow, and the leaves come from the seeds that you plant.
Yeah, and I've got to watch several guys over the last couple of years receive rank at some of the camps, and I think it's fantastic that you'll in the future have a program for them to be a part of. I think it's going to really grow in the future. I think you're going to have a lot of people interested in it. Wow. Plus, how you run your organization.
But you guys help.
Well, it is an honor and a pleasure. But it all
you guys are doing a great job. You guys getting back to everybody, and that there's nothing worse than somebody joining an association or an organization and then they can't talk to anybody, or they want to talk to the head instructor full time, and sometimes it's hard to talk to somebody full time all the time, but you should still be able to have access and be able to do that. And I agree with that. That will be available.
Nice. Well, the cat's out of the bag. So,
well, we still have before jiu-jitsu, we still have MMA on the front burner.
That's right. The MMA, what people don't understand is if you look at the MMA curriculum. So I could have a smaller, watered down version, or I've got a huge 28-page version. Mm. So to make it appealing to everybody, the smaller one has to be shot just so it's ABC, ABC, ABC. And there's 4 levels of it, and then bringing Greg Nelson in on a more advanced one because he's got his life knowledge, of MMA. He's trained so many great fighters over the years. Yeah. So, that's something in the future also that we're going to be doing too.
Greg's amazing.
Getting the staple of the MMA program out is really important.
Yeah, one of the highest quality individuals I've ever met.
That's right. He was saved on earth for a reason. And he's a great one of my best friends.
Yeah, he's awesome. Something I was thinking about earlier, just on a little bit of a tangent, when you were talking about fighters coaching, etc. He at one of our camps, he mentioned when he got sick. Because Greg's very talented and very disciplined, also extremely disciplined, like you were talking about Chad. Greg is as well. And didn't have much tolerance if you really couldn't hang with him, in the early days, because he's so good. But
patience was, he didn't have much patience.
Until he got sick.
Chad was the same way.
Until he got sick. He told us publicly, when he got sick and couldn't feel his left foot anymore, and like he had to learn how to walk all over again. He had to climb back up the ladder, and it made him teach differently. Like he's such a superior teacher. Now he was already awesome. Now he's like amazing because he can relate to just a regular guy trying to do some of the awesome stuff. And I've seen it. I knew him a little bit before he got sick. We did some things, and then after he got sick, and just to see him come through what he came through, I don't think anybody else on earth has come through that particular kind of cancer. I think he's the only one that's ever survived it. and what it did to his teaching, and it expanded it even more, and he turned it into something positive, to grow it, and just such an awesome coach. And the fact that you guys are best friends and do all this stuff together, it's just, we're so lucky. I'm so lucky I know you guys. It's just so great.
We're all lucky. We're all lucky we know each other. There's a reason for it.
Oh, it's just great. And
thank you, guys. Hey, it's the holidays, so I wish everybody a happy holiday. Thanks for listening. And I hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas now that things are okay to say that you can have a Merry Christmas again.
Merry Christmas, Coach.
Absolutely.
And thank you for everything you do.
Merry Christmas.
Remember this, guys. Hey, remember that politics and religion, you can never argue and win. So if you want to sit and argue about politics and religion with people, that's your own personal expression and opinion, and it's all valued, all of it, both sides. So don't ever argue about politics and religion. Just accept the way things are, and then just, you know what, focus on yourself, focus on being great, doing great things, and helping people out. That's what's important.
Get to work.
Yeah, and put your head down, put your head to the grindstone. Don't look up, and just work really hard.
That's it.
That's how you become successful. You work as hard as you possibly can.
I'm a true believer in that. True believer.
That's the truth.
That's it. Thanks, guys, for all your help and all your work. You guys, Merry Christmas to all of you, and look forward to that MMA video and also the striking video with the elbows and knees.
All right.
Yeah. So last thing, before we close out on that subject, on what's coming out. So the very next thing is the ground and pound striking. I just finished that edit today.
Thank you.
Then there's the elbows and knees that Olivier Gruner shot with Erik about a couple of months ago on a red camera, which is pretty cool, Hollywood style shoot. I have that material to finish up. Also a Ben Jones video we did, positioning drills. That's coming out. And the CSW 2016 World Conference set. That's coming out. So,
wow, it's a lot of stuff.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bob, you need to get some rest. You better get off this podcast.
Yeah, if I could turn this camera around and you could take a look at the Bat Cave, I'm in heaven. I truly, back to being blessed, I get to do what I really love to do all day long, every day. I get to look at martial arts. I think this is hard. It is hard work. I won't lie about that. It's a grind. It can get really difficult sometimes, but
you're the best at it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You are. Everyone knows it.
But I do get to work with some of the best people in the world, and I get to look at martial arts for about 10 hours a day.
Wow.
That doesn't mean I'm any good at it.
You know all the curriculum.
That doesn't mean I'm any better at it than anybody else, because you still got to go out there and get on the mat and do it.
It's in your brain. It's in your brain.
But it's awesome. So Merry Christmas to you guys, and thanks, Coach, for coming on. And
Merry Christmas. I'll be in Minnesota for Christmas. I'm going to do a workshop at Rick Faye's before Christmas time.
Awesome.
I haven't been there for a long time, so it'll be nice to see a lot of old friends. And I'll be able to go visit Greg at his school, and I'll actually, it'll be a good time.
That's awesome. And
It'll be white. A white Christmas.
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota shovel.
Yeah. And by the time they're listening to this, they've already heard the Rick Faye podcast, because that will have already come out.
Yeah, he's great. He was the one that introduced me into the JKD world. Spectacular. My Sifu Rick.
Perfect. Have a great night, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas. God bless all you guys. Thank you very much. See you. Bye, guys.
This podcast is brought to you by Erik Paulson's Combat Submission Wrestling Professional Coaches Association. We are striving to be one of the top organizations in the world for professional martial arts instructor training and business development in the martial arts industry. For more information, you can contact me, Alan Baker, at cswatlanta@gmail.com or through the main website at erikpaulson.com.